Welcome, everyone. Welcome this afternoon. We are going to talk about some common practices in the IT managed service industry that we believe should not be common and that you, as the customer, should not stand for. Your expectations should not allow for these practices to continue in this industry. For those of you that don't know my name, I am Peter Meredith. I am here with Tech Eagles, and we have been providing IT managed service contracts for over 15 years. The first and most important thing I want to talk about is IT companies taking advantage of your lack of IT knowledge. You should never feel dumb or stupid for not understanding the details of IT. If you did understand all of it, you wouldn't need to hire an IT company. It should be no different than any other interaction that you have with experts. Doctors, for example, they don't talk down to you even though you haven't gone to school to be a doctor. Just because you're an expert, though, you're not an expert, does not mean that your opinion doesn't matter. We endeavor to always respect our clients and to never take advantage of them. It is hard to know when you're being taken advantage of, but it's something that you can feel. Ultimately, most of the things I will talk about today can kind of come back to this main first point. And it is my hope that by sharing these thoughts, you all will be able to better determine when and how you might be being taken advantage of. The next thing I want to talk about is multi-year contracts. It's very common in the managed IT service industry to have long 1 year, 3 year contracts. And this practice allows for managed IT companies to get away with bad service. So I have kind of a little illustration that I have to show what this looks like. So when you have an IT company working for you, this is kind of the mindset for how people switch IT providers. There is a cost of switching IT providers, and it is some amount. And then you have the current service level that the IT company you've hired is providing. This creates what I like to call the point of change. If at any point in time the service level drops below the cost of change, cost of switching, then you will switch to a new IT company. What happens though, when you have 1, 2, 3 year contracts, is the cost of switching IT providers is dramatically increased. This means that that a lower service level ends up happening because the cost of changing is so great that you will put up with lack of service. The default resting service level of any IT company is slightly above the average point of change for that across all of their companies. So any service level that an IT company wants to deliver beyond that point of change takes additional effort from the IT company. Let me give you another example of how long multi-year contracts can damage the service level. A lot of companies, us included, offer some kind of unlimited labor package for a monthly fee. I personally like pricing this way because it creates a financial incentive for us to do a good job. If we make more money when you have problems, no matter how good our intentions are, there's always a financial incentive for our clients to have more problems. But if labor is unlimited, we are financially motivated for you to experience as little problems as possible. Unfortunately, a multi-year contract flips this incentive. If you have 3 years of guaranteed income, rather than incentivizing you for your clients to have as little problems as possible, you are de-incentivizing the work, because every time you work, you are essentially losing money. This is not the case when you have a shorter contract and the cost of switching is much lower. Not everyone forces you to sign a multi-year contract, and at Tech Eagles, we only require a 30-day notice to make a change to your contract. Don't stand for long contracts that trap you in for multiple years. The next practice I want to bring attention to is hardware leasing. Now, it's not inherently bad or wrong, but it's often done very poorly. The largest concern and the craziest thing we've run into is people who've gotten into lease agreements without their knowledge. So we've run into situations where people have inquired about hiring us to take over their IT, only to discover that they didn't own any of their computers and they would have to return everything and buy new ones. So make sure that if you are leasing equipment, you know what you're leasing. Make sure you know who owns exactly which piece of hardware in your office. The other main issue I see with leased hardware is that they are not replaced or maintained properly. The whole point of leasing hardware is that it can be replaced regularly and maintained to a high standard. But if your leasing contract does not specify replacement requirements, then often that's swept under the rug and you lose out on the whole point of leasing hardware. Another common practice we see is just really confusing quotes or invoice items or pricings. And again, this goes back to taking advantage of your lack of IT knowledge. When it comes to maintaining and securing IT systems, there are a lot of obscure and technical things that do need to be there and are needed to protect your systems. And if you don't understand, it really can be hard to determine what's necessary and what's not. To top it all off, if the pricing structure is confusing, it just makes it that much more difficult to understand what you're paying for. We are constantly working to develop clearer ways to communicate pricing and to communicate what we're delivering and what your business needs. The only advice I can really give here is to ask about each item on an invoice or a quote and really listen to what they say. What does this item do? What happens if I don't get it? And really take the time to hear, is this something that you need, or is this something that they are trying to slip by? The fifth topic for today is compliance. Now, I've said this many times, and I'll say it again. There is no standard or license required for somebody to operate an IT company. Plumbers need a license, electricians need a license. When you build a building, there's lots of codes you have to follow, fire codes. None of these things exist for IT companies. IT regulatory compliance is put on the front end with the businesses rather than the back end with the technicians, unlike other industries. For example, if you're a doctor's office, you have to comply with HIPAA. HIPAA includes specifications for how your IT infrastructure should be configured and maintained. But the responsibility for this compliance is not on your IT company, it's on you. It's in your hands. If something goes wrong, you are the one that's liable, even if you have hired another IT company. This means that if your IT company is helping you comply with cyber regulations, they are not taking away that liability from you. So you need to meet with them constantly and have them explain to you what the regulations they are meeting that you have to meet, and then how they are helping you meet them. Finally, I wanted to discuss quoting. Some IT companies will lowball a quote in order to get the sale. Many organizations have good requirements and a good practice to get multiple quotes from different IT companies or just different companies in general before they make a decision. However, in most cases, you cannot do a straight apples to apples comparison of different IT quotes. You have to adjust for what is being offered. And almost every IT company will quote, so they quote slightly differently. So how many times have you agreed to a quote and then it turned out that on the back end you ended up paying way more than originally quoting? Oftentimes, many project quotes have a little asterisk that says additional hours over the quoted amount will be billed hourly. I'm here to say it doesn't have to be that way. If two quotes have a large price difference, it's most likely because they are selling completely different things. So for hardware, for example, you have to look at the device specifications. You can't just look at the price. The price is the smallest difference between a $200 laptop or a $2,000 laptop. If you're quoting or purchasing equipment, don't purchase it without being told the device specifications. And if you're comparing quotes, that is where you should compare first before you compare the price. Quoting labor is very difficult, and every IT company runs into the challenge of unforeseen things that cause a lot of time. But if you're comparing two different quotes, and one says it will take 10 hours and one says it will take 2 hours, then they are either quoting two different projects or one of them is over or underestimated. So make sure you check not just the price of labor, but how many hours that they think it's going to take to complete. And then check if any overage hours are going to be billed or if the quote is for the entire price. Thanks, everyone. That concludes our webinar today. If you have any questions or you ever want any more information about these topics, you can call our office and I would be happy to discuss it further. The numbers will be on the screen at the end and you can just call anytime and ask for Peter. Thanks.